Hello, welcome to Head to Head on UATV. My name is Tom Bell and we're at the New Ukraine Investment Conference. Joining us is Yaroslav Udovenko. He is the Managing Partner and CEO of Empire State Capital Partners. Mr. Udovenko, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Here we're talking about investment in Ukraine, and often, as the first panel discussed today, the rule of law is the number one area where investors are cautious on Ukraine. So often many achievements, whether that's Prozoro, whether that's new startups, that sort of thing, often those don't get a fair share. I mean, what's your opinion on this?
My opinion on this is definitely there are a lot of success cases in Ukraine in the reforms. Though, like 3 years ago, when Maidan revolution, the revolution of dignity started, me frankly, I didn't have like an expectation of like quick turnaround and like quick wins, right? First, because of like Ukraine is a very young country, just like 26 years as we are independent, and there was a lot of luggage and coming from the Soviet times, and the authorities and the people in power are representatives of the people itself. And that didn't evaporate. Like the people didn't change overnight, right? It takes time to change mentality, the approach to business, and their expectations from the government and from the country itself. So like it's a tough path that we are going, but we are going in the right direction. And we will definitely come where we are going, and it's a matter of time, and it's a matter of how our partners, European partners, and foreign American partners will help us to fasten that process.
And these European and American partners, how do they see Ukraine now? Do they see there's been a big change over the past 3 years? Or do they say, oh, well, nothing's changed, it's all still the same? No, what's your experience?
My experience is those people who actually came to visit Ukraine, talked to Ukrainian businesses, saw the success cases, talked to the government, like they open their eyes, right, and they see a lot of opportunities where Ukraine is as the largest country in Europe, right, territorially, and one of the largest in population, and it's completely different view on the country when you visit Ukraine and have a like hands-on experience. Rather than people who are never visited and are estimating Ukraine based on the TV, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there was through the last 3 years of when Russia started a war against Ukraine, the TV picture wasn't that picturesque.
Well, this is what the main thing people see
for Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
So the picture shows like a war, right, and the deaths and the clashes. You cannot like show the picture of how Prozoro acted through the last 3 years, how it evolved. Like
this is the procurement system.
The procurement system. It's one of the largest achievements of the government. And as Mr. Shimkiv mentioned at the panel, it saved $1 billion for the budget of Ukraine. And that's, if you compare that like to 80 billion GDP, that's an amazing result. And the same, the reform of Naftogaz. It was a loophole, a corruptive loophole, a huge deficit, like 5% of GDP, negative balance, deficit, and now it turns into the positive,
yeah.
And a couple hundred times increased taxes from the state-owned company.
So this is on the state level. I mean, for the business that you're involved in, often it's easy to get lost in the facts and figures of the country as a whole. But I mean, do you have any examples where a foreign company has come into Ukraine, perhaps a bit nervous, but ultimately it's been a success story?
Through the last 3 years, we, like particularly our firm, we've seen a gradual increase in interest to Ukraine, to invest into Ukraine, and that is what our conference is about. Like,
So there is an increase.
Yeah. It is to first bring people who never visited Ukraine to Ukraine, like to break this kind of PR obstacle, right? To overcome it and show and focus on opportunities that exist in Ukraine, and they are. For instance, and the energy panel is coming, and the alternative energy investments are one of them. Ukraine has one the highest green tariff for solar energy, like globally. So it is an opportunity.
Yeah, and that's only one opportunity.
It's one-off, right? And so Ukraine is also reaching opportunities for the wind power generation, right? And there are a lot of others opportunities. That is what our conference
And perhaps this is also one of the major problems, is that brand Ukraine isn't known well enough around the world. If you go to Europe and the US, people have this negative idea of Ukraine, but actually there's another side to the story. So this is what you work to do, to promote Ukraine.
Yes, as Henry Ford told, if I would have $2, I would spend one for advertising, right?
Yeah, so this is, and do you think that, I mean, you work in the private sector, but do you think the government does enough to promote Ukraine? Do you get much assistance at all, or do you not really see this?
As I said, it's easy to criticize the government and they're not doing enough, right? And blame everything on the government, right? But in any country of the world, the government is rather not the initiator. Right? The initiator is either the private sector or the volunteers, right? Historically, the government wasn't that strong in Ukraine, right? Some people say the government in Ukraine didn't exist before Maidan revolution, right? And if you see on the change on the decisions that were made through the last 3 years, some of them were painful. Like, is it easy to cut 5% GDP deficit, which went throughout the pockets? It was a hard decision, and it is a credit to the government of Yatsenyuk, which made and helped to make the decision, and the government of Mr. Groisman, who continues that path.
There was a couple of panelists who said that the growth GDP of Ukraine, that's 2 to 3%, is actually very small. Do you agree with that? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you take into account the low comparative base, and what Ukraine really needs, 5-10% GDP growth per annum. That's what Ukraine deserves, and where opportunity lies. But you can achieve that only through foreign direct investments, through promoting investments. So the fresh capital comes in, creates a job, and increases GDP, that stabilizes the currency. There is no other way. And it is so important to make all those preconditions for the foreign capital to come, to open doors, deregulate the economy.
They were also talking about the financial system as well in the panel, how Ukraine, and I didn't know this until today, Ukraine has its own financial accounting system. It's not actually similar to that of the European Union, sort of the internationally recognized standard. Yeah.
As I understand, as far as I know, the Ukrainian accounting system is in a way similar, right? So they have a program of moving towards the IFRS standards, but in fact. It depends on the company, right? And the management. If the management of the particular company sees that it should raise funds, that it should attract partners from abroad, it should develop overseas to the foreign markets, not just be on the captive like Ukrainian market or the former Soviet Union countries, which because those markets are almost lost, right? With the start with the war with Russia, many businesses, especially in the east of Ukraine, in Kharkiv region, which were oriented towards the Russian market as a base for the exports, they now need to be proactive to go towards foreign markets, and those foreign partners require transparency. So it's a gradual process, and I think when, like on the business level, the business owners will require from their financial directors go to IFRS, right?
Yeah.
And when most of the companies, like in addition maybe to Ukrainian accounting standards, they start introducing IFRS standards, right? Then it will be kind of a self-moving way. So it starts from the business. I wouldn't start from the government.
Okay.
So it's business. Like in IFRS, you can also show things untransparently. So
it's the same. And I have one final question for you about European integration. Recently, we had the free trade agreement that came into force, and also soon the visa-free travel as well. No, these like big political steps. Now, how does that affect investment? You know, have you seen? Does that mean more foreign investors are confident to come to Ukraine when they see that the country is moving towards European integration, or not really?
I think there will be an indirect implication towards an increase. As we said, like this conference is about bringing people here to Ukraine and seeing the real things, right? What's really happening? What are the real opportunities? Business is about people. It's about communication. When a businessman comes to Kiev, sees like there are no work here, like
particularly we can see behind us. I mean,
Kiev, like
it's beautiful view.
Beautiful view and kind, generous people, right? And so he may say, okay, why don't I do business here in Ukraine? Okay, what's the real estate prices? Okay, it's ridiculously low compared to other Europe. So it's for the communication, and next step, the Ukrainian going to Europe, Europeans coming, and not only Europeans. That visa-free regime with the European Union also triggers visa-free regimes with many other countries, right? So business is communication, and the investments will follow.
Okay, well, Mr. Yudovenko, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes,
I think it was a pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation.